So, shooting another video. I want to talk about a few things here. So, like, the topic of today's conversation is about the challenges and things you are faced with when dealing with, like, when you're dealing with a family that's in poverty. If you came from a family or a setting where resources were limited, based because, like, one, we're gonna be honest and be real here. Monetary, value matters, especially if you live in America. If you're watching these videos, money is like the end all be all for most of the times, especially when you're coming from a situation or environment where you don't have it. So, like, the things that you lack in your life are what you're gonna focus on most of the time. So I'll say, like, growing up, a lot of us, poverty was or is the thing that drives us to be a certain way, or drives us to carry ourselves in a certain matter or space or thought process the way we are. Once we grow older, we can't undo some of these things that have happened or the things that we've experienced. So it does make relationship building a little bit harder to, like, to grow relationships and things like that. But it can be done, and it must be done if you want to elevate and grow, okay? So, like, you have lack of access to several things when dealing or living in a situation where you're living in poverty. Now, what is your definition of poverty? What is your definition of struggle? Might be a different, or it is a different meaning to a lot of people. It is a different meaning to a few of us out here. So to some, struggle, poverty, it is, or it can be, not having, like, material things. And for most of us growing up, sometimes those lack of material things often made us seem or feel as if we didn't have everything we wanted. Now, there are some people or some families who go through experiences worse than that or more than that. Like, some people lack access to, I want to say, food. Some people lack access to water, a living situation. You got clothing. So, like, when I put it in that perspective, I necessarily wasn't in poverty. We necessarily never struggled. Now, there were pockets here and there where I had to share clothes. I had to wear the knockoffs. I remember my dad got me a pair of Jordans. And the thought that my dad got me a pair of Jordans, I was super hype. I was like, yo, got a pair of J's, can't nobody tell me nothing. And then on top of that, let me explain the story. It's like, the Jordans, he gave me the shoes in front of my friends. He gave me the pair of shoes in front of my friends. It was a couple of my friends over the house. Okay, cool. He gave me the pair of Jordans. And what happened was, I opened that box. It was just like applauses, and then them ain't Jordans, like, the craziest feeling. Then I remember I used to wear them to school. I think for me, and this is the one I didn't address, like, one side of, like, struggle, or one side of, I guess, going through some things, you develop this certain toughness about yourself. You develop a certain grit about yourself, but it also came from going through those hardships and adversities and struggles, like, because when you don't have all the material, when you don't have the nice home, when you don't have the stable home, when you don't have the stable life going on within the walls of your home, it messes with you up here, okay? And I honestly can attest to that because share a little insight or a little insight with y'all. There were pockets in my life where I had a therapist, okay? Um, I had one in middle school, I had one in high school, and I had one in college. I felt very uncomfortable to express or share different things that I was dealing with in my household. One, because the therapist, they like kind of, I don't know if they issue you one or how that go, prescribe you a therapist, whatever the word is for it. They don't, well, they didn't send a person that I could relate to. This person was not around my age. Maybe that's for a reason. This person wasn't of my color. Maybe that's for a reason. But I think oftentimes, like from the several little sessions I did have, I didn't feel relatable. Like it's hard to explain something or share your side of a story when the people you are around, they're not relatable. Like think about that. They're not relatable. And I kind of feel like from time to time, I struggle with that. There's a lot of people who we struggle with like being able to fit in because one, the rooms or the places we are in now, we once wasn't there. A big piece of our life, a big majority of our life, we was over here. And now we're over here. It just feels like I don't belong. I don't fit in these spaces. It's just something you got to get used to, something you got to get accustomed to. Like clothes, that was a major one. Food. Man, look, my dad did everything possible. Like I say, out of the several things, we had food and we had clothes. Whether or not it was food we liked, we still had it. Whether or not it was clothes, we still had something to put on our back, okay? Those two things we always had. Now, when it comes to shelter, hey. So, like, I remember a situation where I don't know who's like, it was a big ice storm in the 2000s. Like it was super cold in the 2000s. A big ice storm hit, and when the ice storm hit, it froze over every single thing. It froze over stuff so much, the power lines was breaking. The trees was so heavy and so covered in ice that the branches, I'm talking big branches, was falling off into people's yards. Houses was trees were leaning over into houses and apartments because it was so heavy. Cars were falling out of people's driveways and sliding all over the place. So when this ice storm hit, we spent like 2 days living with our cousin. We spent another 2 days living with our uncle or something like that. And then I remember like the power had went out. It was so cold it froze the fans. Like the little fans in everybody's like backyard. When you go back there and mess with the little power box stuff, it's like this little spinning fan back there. It froze that. So the power went out, it froze that. So we didn't have heat, electricity, we didn't have AC, we didn't have nothing. I mean, not that I wanted the AC during that time, but it got rough, okay? It got really, really rough. And what happened was, I remember my father packing us all up, and he found another apartment complex and he kicked the back door in. We stayed in a apartment. It had heat, but we didn't have like electricity or nothing like that. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. We had the heat, like, cause he cut the oven on. It was one of those old school ovens. You twist the knob, like gas, I think, and it come. I don't know how to explain that joint, but it was working. Oh yeah, the apartment complex where we stayed at, the pieces where we lived at, everybody lights and stuff were out, except the people who were like maintenance and the people who ran the apartment complex. They all lived in this one strip. So all of their rooms and stuff was just A1 and working fine. So my dad was like, forget that, we going up that way. He kicked the door in and we was living in the apartment that we didn't own. We lived in our car for a little bit. We lived in a house with no power for like a year straight. So during my senior year of high school basketball, I lived in a house with no power. On top of that, we had bed bugs, we had roaches. Another house, we had raccoons climbing in and out of the ceiling. It was literally like a big hole in the ceiling. You could just like see what was coming in and out of the it was a lot though. So like the mental side for me, because I was in school, man, listen, when you ride in a school bus and you get dropped off in front of an in-town suite, there are some people during that time, they don't understand what you're going through. They don't understand what you're dealing with. For some, you might get dropped off in front of a trailer park. For some, you might get dropped off in front of a community just because you wanted to get off there and you walk and go where you're supposed to go. I used to do that too, because at one point it got to the point, some of the people, listen, when you go to these schools, like you go to all, like, man, you gotta have your mental right. You gotta have you gotta have thick, tough skin to deal with some of the things that you're gonna go through. And listen, it was wild. Them people gonna fry you. And I'm talking about people fry you. When I say fry you, I'm talking about they getting to flaming you, they getting to talking trash, they getting to talking crazy. I'm talking about I get to the point where girls used to talk crazy about me. I'm just like, but you out of control of that situation. You're out of control of, like, you know, being in that like place of poverty. And it's just like, for me, it just dealt with my mental, okay? It dealt with my mental and the things that I was dealing with. I keep looking down because I'm looking at my notes. I write this stuff in my journal all the time. I write in my journal. So, man, listen, man, I remember being like, we had WIC. We had, my mama had WIC, okay? Food stamps, Section 8 housing. My dad was on disability. Man, that in-town suite was rough. I'm not gonna lie, the in-town suite was rough. My uncle and grandfather moved into our home from Hurricane Katrina, and an in-town suite is one bed, a sink in the bathroom, and a kitchen. It's all like connected. Like it literally, you can see all three from either spot of the room. You can almost like touch both sides of the thing. It's like two of me could touch both sides of the in-town suite. But like getting dropped off right there, everybody knowing about your situation, a lot of people used to clown. And it's like, I didn't realize until I got older that those things happen to a lot of people. It was just some parents upheld a certain image to be around others in school or be around others at church or whatever the case may be. So it got to a point, like, I also know, like, with poverty, you can question religion. Poverty, you can question, like, your beliefs. You can question your beliefs about yourself. There were times where, like, I overworked myself. There were times I didn't believe, like, everybody deserved money. I felt like everybody who got money, you was doing something, like, low. You was finessing. You was sneaking. Like, you was doing something to get money. Because I'm like, man, listen, the one thing I want you to know, being a good heart, being a good person, just because you're that doesn't get you anywhere, okay? I need y'all to remember that and understand that. Being a good person doesn't just get you anywhere. Like, that don't work like that. So, I also know, like, there's so many things I could tell y'all. Like, this thing I learned about called credit card lining, like redlining, whatever the case, whatever the term is. It's like, based on your credit score and based on your financial situation, your affordable living is in a zip code or a section of the city or state where other people who are going through similar things just like you are placed. So when you go to, like, apply for loans, when you go to certain places and ask for things at banks, or you go into different places, people perceive and portray you a different way because they know you're not from this area. You don't act like them. You don't walk like them. You don't talk like them. So it's more than just like the face front value of these things that you're dealing with when going through poverty. I call it poverty because at the time that's what I felt like it was. That's what I felt like it was. And thank God it wasn't like really social media around like that during the time I was in middle school and high school. Because I think Middle school was MySpace. High school was like Vine and Instagram. But it was like, it was just now coming around. But I can only imagine what a lot of these kids are dealing with and going through now. Like coming through high school and stuff, middle school, elementary, and you got social media. So it's like you comparing your life to the kids and stuff you see on these social media outlets. And it's like, hey, that can be very taxing on the mindset. So I definitely understand like the perspectives of different things, like the educational opportunities. Listen, the schools that some of us went to growing up, man, they just pushing us through. Hey, these kids is bad. These kids is crazy. We're just gonna push them through and keep it going. Because our resources wasn't up to par, because of the financials were lacking with my family, we bounced around communities a lot growing up. I can recall us moving back and forth from California to North Carolina 3 times in my life growing up. I went to 4 different elementary schools. Like, I remember like certain experiences you experience in life when going through hardships, it make you grow up faster. So like, I tell my mom and dad, I remember stuff when I was 3, 4 years old. Like, it turns you into an adult fast. I don't know how to explain it. Like, it turns you into an adult faster than what you would like, or faster than you would expect, because now you're facing adult problems that some believe a kid shouldn't face. But I felt like at an early age, it taught me a lot of things about myself. So because I carry myself like an adult most of the time, or I carry myself kind of mature than others, I faced a lot of problems, a lot of issues with that too. So it's not always good, because a lot of people are like, yo, you think you better than us. Like, I used to get into a lot of arguments. I used to get disrespected a lot. I used to get into a lot of fights. Like, there are like some of us, like some of you watching this video, you probably went through the same things growing up in your life. Like, people was disrespecting, people was trying you, and you don't know where this stuff was coming from. The thing that I wish I would have learned earlier was that just because you're a good-spirited person, because you carry yourself a certain way, don't mean these obstacles and encounters won't come your way. So imagine having to get yourself mentally prepped. All right, you finna go in here. You gotta go in school. You gotta walk past these group of guys, these group of girls. They finna flame you. They finna light you up. And then it got to a point I started learning how to talk back. I started learning how to flame back. But there are some people who like to hit, but they don't like to be hit back. And then it's just this, man, listen, I truly understand, like, the educational part A is just pushing you through. So listen, I got to a new space. I'm like the educational. You get to a new space where, like, let's say you go to high school or college in a different area that you weren't accustomed to before. The way you talk, the way you carry yourself, the way you dress looks nothing like how these group of people live and dress over here. And I'll take it a step further. I really realized that when I went to college. Okay, in college, this is how I used to walk around. Walk around like this all day long, black hoodie, black Scully or a black Raiders hat, a black LA hat. I had on all black sweats, Adidas or Nike sweats, and I had a pair of black metallic 5 Jordans I used to wear. But it was 10, 20 of us walking in the group coming into the cafeteria. We'd be sitting in the section, and our image, our perception of how we portrayed ourselves, we're kids from the struggle, if you want to say, like, and this just wasn't white. I mean, this just wasn't black. It was white. It was white boys with me, Hispanics and Chinese kids. Like, the way we carry ourselves was just like the way we be chilling. And it was like the other people around the school, you know, people step off to the side, they move away from you. Teachers on purposely used to call me out and pick me for questions that I knew I didn't know the answer to. I was cheating on a lot of tests in school because some of the questions and things they ask in school aren't based on what everybody has experienced and gone through. There are some people who know how to operate in this world, the business side. And then there are some of us, like, okay, for example, some of us have to learn how to carry ourselves and be overprotective and move in a certain direction or light because of where you may grow, where you have grown up at, or some of the experiences you've experienced in life. So now you carry yourself a certain way. You're always looking over your shoulder. You're always watching, you know, like, just everything around you, just paying attention to your surroundings. Like, and even when I got to that space, learning in school and things like that, it was just like, It's a different feeling. It's for sure a different feeling. Because you don't have like the necessary, like the monetary resource, the financial assets to help you get through life. Health, your health can truly go down. Your health can truly go down. I learned this from my father. So for those of y'all who don't know, let me face the camera and tell y'all. My father has one eye. Okay? Now, there are some people who, family or friends, whatever, like they went through certain health risks as well. I don't know what others have went through in their house, but my father has one eye. He had a stroke. Okay, and we didn't necessarily have the resources or the money to help him get the proper surgery or things like that. Man, look, it's a lot over here, yo. And it used to make me feel a certain type of way because like certain things can happen in this world where you just understand and realize like, man, it's a different ball game out here. I remember being like that jacked up about the whole situation, and I still had this older friend I used to hang with, and he used to take me out and show me like, bro, it's bad, but there are people facing or dealing with a little bit worse than you. And me growing up as a kid, I couldn't see that, couldn't understand that. Like, and then I started seeing, we used to go feed some other families. Like me and him just take some money. I take some money I made from work and go buy a bunch of like McDonald's food and just pass them out. Man, I'm not even gonna get into some of the things like you can see out here when you truly come from a hard life. Because when you don't know, you don't know. Okay, those resources, those things you experience, those encounters you face, when you don't know, you don't know. And like education is the tools to freedom. But when you don't have these resources and tools to gain knowledge, you need knowledge for health, you need knowledge for financial, you need knowledge on food, clothes, shelter. Like all these things matter. And it's a lot that you must like learn how to maneuver with. Social mobility. I wrote this down. Like I Google searched a better word for it, but I wrote down social mobility. Okay, what is social mobility? Can lead like to a sense of hopelessness. Children from a poor family can find it challenging to break out of a poverty type of cycle. Okay, the things that I'm learning is that it's the difference between keeping your expenses and means low and then also carrying yourself like you're still in a certain like, you know, but I've learned how to live below my means. Like I've learned how to live below my means. At one point I was trying to chase all these material things to uphold an image to appease the people. And what it attracted, I'm gonna tell you like what it attracted. It attracts a lot of people who hate because you bring a lot of like unwanted attention towards you because it's like you trying to flex, you trying to floss, you trying to show people, hey, I got it. Now what happens is you have to also protect yourself with those things that you have. I had people who stole out of my locker. I had dudes who stole, like, man, listen, I hate talking about my experiences in middle school and high school because that was a point of me where I felt like I wasn't properly defending myself the way I would now. So it's like, I had people steal out of my locker. I had people steal money from me. I had people take food from me. Somebody stole my phone in school. Like it was a whole bunch of like just I really don't know how to explain it. So you get to a point now, you know how to maneuver, you know how to carry yourself. And it's crazy because like I'm around good people now. So it's like from time to time, it's just, yo, you're not in that space anymore. Carry yourself and move a certain way. Hey, it's all right. You're going to change. It's okay. You're going to move in a better space. It's okay. The light or the space you're in now is better. And these are the things that I have to like understand and experience and truly, you know, get a hold of. But it takes time. That social, like, it's so true. Because like when you come from a certain, you feel like you really don't fit in. Like you truly don't fit in. I know that feeling. I know that feeling. But let me give you some positives about not being able to fit in. When you know you don't fit in, either you can go lower or you can go higher and rise above that, okay? What I learned is, I rose above a lot of this stuff out here that was bothering me, that used to get to me. And I learned, like, this is the thing about going through, this is one thing I say about going through, like, a struggle life. You learn how to not use your emotions and feelings. Now, to some, that might be bad. And, of course, it is bad from time to time because you got to know how to use emotions and feelings. But in my world, I've never had an encounter or a situation where emotions and feelings were needed. Now, if you are watching this video up until this point and you feel like you know something or a time when using emotions and feelings was valuable or helpful to you, please drop it in the comment and express that and let me know, please. I would love to read that. But over here, emotions and feelings is what gets you hurt. Emotions and feelings is what gets you played, expression. And it's like this like monotone type of style on how you carry and go about life. And I carry myself now with a it is what it is type of attitude. And it can be detrimental to things once you do get to a space of growth and prosperity. But social skills, you have to work on your social skills. So going back to like the therapist thing, seeking help, knowing when you need help, knowing when you might need to express a time where you're lacking. You can feel ashamed of some of the things you went through. Like truly feel uncomfortable about some of the things you went through. Like truly feel uncomfortable about some of the things you went through. So like expressing and sharing it with others. I'll tell you one thing about that. When you go through a real rough patch in your life and then you express it or open up to others, and the response or the result from expressing and opening up doesn't come back the way you expect it to be, it'll make you shut down even more. And the way I dealt with things growing up, I never told nobody about a lot of things I faced or experienced. I told my mom and dad now. I told my brother and sister now. I told my friends now. Like I've expressed like, yo, this is what was going on in my life. This is what I went through. This is the whole reason I named the channel Quiet Minds. This is the whole reason why I say like the experiences or things I went through, it just had me just more so observant. And any room I enter or anybody I could move or be around, I'm just quiet, where I just carry myself like, okay, gotta watch that, gotta watch that, gotta watch that. So my whole thing was getting to a space or a pocket of true peace. So like, what are you trying to gain? What are you trying to get towards? Okay, paycheck to paycheck, yo. Let me tell you something. That paycheck to paycheck thing, the struggle keeps us together while being divided, if that makes sense. We argue over food. It's so many things I can't even explain to you what goes on. Like you argue over any and everything. Sometimes you don't even have each other's back when going out into the real world. Like you get into arguments like, in my household, it was 6 of us. And instead of all 6 of us putting in $20, that's $120 for the week to go get a bulk of groceries. No, I'm gonna spend $100 on myself this week, and so on and so on and so on. So now we all done spent $100 a piece for ourselves instead of all coming together and putting it all into one pot. Poverty keeps a lot of us divided amongst family. It's a lot of arguments, a lot of personal stuff you gotta work on and deal with in order to get out of that. And it's hard, it's difficult. But I feel like if you can get through some of these things, you will be okay. I truly believe that if you can get through some of these things, life will become a little more easier.